Hey there everyone, Restless Swede here with a new video, and in this video the big question is, should you upgrade to 4K? And I'm talking about projectors. My brother and I, we did a shootout last weekend where we had his BenQ TK800M and we pitched it against my older Epson TW9200. I know it has a different serial name in America, but it doesn't matter. You could find it on Google. And this won't be so much as a dig deep into the technical specs of the two projectors. This will be more a video about my feelings on should I go from my projector to in all honesty, a budget 4K projector. And I thought I would do it a little bit more structured than I used to. I usually just ramble on. So I have some notes with the pros and the cons of both projectors. So we started out with the BenQ TK800. And this is a brand new projector from BenQ. You'll see the some of the tech specs here, and it's a very bright projector. It has 3000 lumens output. And we will pitch it against, sorry about that, my Epson TW9200. Now the difference between these two projectors are that the BenQ is a brand new projector. It is a 4K projector, although it's a pixel shift projector. I know it's kind of hard to find because what they do is that they have four 1080p chips, and they split every pixel into four, which then brings you the 8 million pictures on the screen. So it's not a native 4K projector, and it's a DLP projector, and mine is a 1080p. It's 4 or 5 years old. I don't really remember. I bought it pre-owned. It was a couple of months old when I bought it. And it's a 1080p 3 LCD projector, which has the three panels behind each other, one red, one green, one blue, and the light goes through it. And the DLP, if you don't know what that is, it has reflective mirrors that shifts the light in or out, and it has a color wheel that spins and that blends the colors, and I will get back to that later. So what we did is that we just brought his projector here. Mine is ceiling mounted, and we put his projector on a couple of boxes. We shot it at my screen. It's a Seymour XD 1.1 gain, 3 meter wide, 235:1 screen. Everything else was the same. It was my Sony UBP800 Blu-ray player. It was my Marantz 7012 receiver. And we even used the same HDMI cable. And yes, it's HDMI, not HDMI.
Do you know the sound of the letter H?
So we just switched between the two projectors. First, I'll start off with the BenQ and the pros and the cons of the BenQ, and then I'll go to the Epson. And one of the pros with the BenQ, when I got it, it's a very small projector. It's easy to handle. It's very light. I think it's around 3 kilos, something like that. You can look it up. It's a small package. It's about the size of a shoebox. So it's a very small, handy projector. And it's a very bright projector. It produces a super bright image that really pops. And if you have more of a living room situation, you wouldn't have any problems with ambient lights or something coming on from windows from the side or something. My brother actually has a setup like that. It's more of a living room. I have a dedicated home cinema with I can control the lights totally. And that's a really good pro for that projector. It's super bright. It is also very sharp, especially for the price point. This projector is around, I think it's around $1,000 up to maybe $1,200, something like that. And for the price point, the lenses are really good and it's a very sharp and crisp picture. The colors are really good represented. It covers 96% of the Rec 709 color space, which is very good. If you don't know what that is, there are tons of videos about it. I won't go too deep into the technical specifications here. But the colors were really good, really popping. And we used Blu-ray, we used YouTube 4K material because I don't own a 4K disc yet. And we watched a couple of different clips. And one of the clips that we saw was there's a video from Costa Rica, Jungle and stuff like that. Many people use it to review projectors. And it was bright, vivid, the colors were amazing. With the little caveat, I have to say that these type of videos are designed to look good with slow movement and very precise lighting, and they put very big effort into the right focus depth and everything. But it produced a really clear, deep image, which was awesome. The funny thing is though, just a sidetrack here a little, was that when we put that 4K HDR Costa Rica video on, I was like, wow, that's bright. Those colors are nice. Look at the sharpness. It's a little bit bright. Maybe it's the HDR settings or something like that. And my brother went, dude, we're on your projector. So then we switched, and yes, of course, his was sharper due to the larger pixel count and everything, but it looked amazing. Very big depth in the picture. And we also watched mostly Ready Player One, and I think it's a good video to use because in the beginning it's very dark, and not dark but gray, drab when you see the stacks, and then it goes into the oasis where it's very bright. There's a lot of color and there are tons of details everywhere. And then the race where you have all these things flying around, the debris from cars crashing, the coins flying. I thought it was amazing. It looked really, really good. So it's a very good color, very sharp, very bright. And then of course there's the HDR. Now we couldn't really try the HDR because I don't have a Blu-ray disc with HDR. It was just a Costa Rica one, and YouTube is not the best place to go for 4K materials because it is very compressed. But I must say it looked awesome, and I think if we do try with a 4K disc, I think we will. Star Wars is coming out in Sweden in 2 days, and I will buy it on 4K, the Rise of Skywalker, and we will definitely try that one out. So HDR in that price point is really good. And last but not least, I think the BenQ is a very affordable projector. I know $1,100 to $1,200 can sound a lot, but if you want to have a good television with good picture for that price point, maybe you'll get 65 inches. Here you can project 100, 110, 120 inches easily. I think my screen, I have to measure it, I think it's around 130 inches diagonally, maybe more even, and it produced a super crisp, bright picture with very good colors. So it is an affordable projector, and that's the thing we're discussing here, because when we compare it to my projector, we'll get to that later, it's a little bit more expensive, but we'll go there. The cons of the BenQ is, and this is a really big one, there's no lens shift on it. Lens shift is crucial, I think, for placing a projector. It doesn't have to be a lot, but this has nothing. It has keystone. That's all it has. So we had to really put it dead center in front of the screen, and we had to really jiggle with it in order to fit the screen. And I think if you want to ceiling mount it and things like that, you either have to tilt it or you have to physically move it up or down in order to get the picture where you want it. And you can't put it off to the side or anything, then you're that's is not going to work. So I think that's a really big negative for that projector. There is no lens shift whatsoever. Another thing is that the zoom range is very small. It's 1:1, I think. I don't remember what it said, but when we had it placed way back in my room, the room is about from screen to back wall. It's somewhere around 5 meters, so it's not a very big room, but we struggled to fit all the way out on the 3 meter wide screen, and the zoom was too small, and we didn't even bother with changing from 16:9 to 235:1, because then you have to zoom and you have to move it up, and it was, we didn't even try it. There was no point. This one is a little unfair, but I think fan noise was a little bit of a problem for me. Why I say it's unfair is because I was sitting right next to it, because we had it piled up on some boxes, but it was totally there. You could hear it, and I think it was, for me, it was a little bit too noisy, a bit like an office projector. But then again, when you have the movie going and you have all these things, all the sound, then you won't notice. But if you watch more somber movies with a lot of dialogue and stuff, maybe it could be annoying to have that little set. Maybe there's an eco setting that turns the fan noise down a bit, but the fan noise is there. And then we have one other very big problem for me. Everybody doesn't see it, but I do. And it's the DLP. That's a problem for me, because I see the color breakups when the color wheel is spinning, and there's a lot of things going on. Big contrast scenes. If you shift your eyes, or if you start to look at that side of the screen and then you go to the other side of the screen, the colors break up into small rainbows. And since this has a very fast spinning color wheel, and it's a very good projector, I have to say it's a really good projector, these rainbow breakups were so small, but they were there. So to me, the picture sometimes was a bit busy. It strained my eyes, and I think if I were to sit through a whole movie, maybe I would end up with a headache. I don't know, but I am very, very sensitive to the DLP rainbow effect. Everyone isn't, but to me it was a big con. Then if we move on to my projector, the Epson TW9200. Now this is a couple-year-old projector. It's discontinued now. I think it's the 9300 or 9400 even. So things happen fast. And the pros for this one is the black level. The light output isn't as great on the Epson. It's 2400 lumens, I think. So it's a bit lower than the BenQ. But that also produces lower black levels, and it has a dynamic iris, which I think worked really good on it. So the perceived contrast was a bit higher, I think. But then again, the BenQ, on the other hand, is such a bright projector, so it produces more brightness in the other end. So if you have a living room, you will probably find that projector to have more of a contrast. And on paper, I think it does actually. But we couldn't really get the black levels that we wanted in my home cinema, because we can turn off all the lights completely. The Epson is also a very sharp projector. The lenses are even better than it is in the BenQ. So for being a 1080p projector, it's really sharp. And as I said, the Costa Rica video, we were both amazed about how little difference it was between the 4K projector and my projector, which is more of a higher mid-range projector. When it came out, it was around $30 to $3,500, I think. I didn't quite pay that much because I bought it pre-owned, but it was a more expensive projector for the time. And it goes back to the DLP thing, and that this is a 3-chip LSD. No, not LSD. Those would be some amazing colors. LCD. Is that, to me, the picture was calmer. there wasn't so much jittering or strain on my eyes. It was more film-like. Most pictures today, or many pictures today, or movies are shot in with digital cameras. But if you take a film like, for instance, The Rise of Skywalker, it is shot on 35 millimeter film with everything that entails. But I think there's more of a cinema quality to my projector than to the BenQ. The fan is very quiet on the Epson due to the chassis is much bigger. This projector weighs 8.2 kilograms, so it's a bulkier thing. But then again, you get more airflow and the fan doesn't have to work so hard, so it was very quiet. And of course, if you don't have an extremely dedicated cinema where you can put it anywhere you want, lens shift. The lens shift is really good on the Epson, and it made it so much easier to just move the picture to where you want it and everything. So lens shift is still a really good pro. Also, the zoom range, much greater on the Epson. I can with no problem. There's no lens memory, it's not motorized, but it takes me about 10 to 15 seconds to set up from 69 to 235 or even 4:3 frame. So it's easy. I just zoom, set the the focus a little bit, and maybe tweak a little with the lens shift, because I have to move it up and down between the 69 and the 235. But lens shift, awesome. Now the cons of the Epson. It's 1080p. 1080p is still the predominant market, and you can still buy high quality 1080p projectors, as this one was a couple of years ago, at the same price point. But still, it's 1080p and it's not very future proof, because I have a 4K player, I have a receiver that can take 4K pass through, and I can play 4K material on it because it doesn't have it. That's a big con on this one. No HDR, so I don't get that high dynamic range. It's just the way it is, because when I bought this one, HDR, it probably existed somewhere, but it was nothing that you talked about. It didn't even have it on television, so that's just how it is. It is not as bright as the BenQ. If you have a dedicated home cinema with light control, no problem. But if you have a living room situation, the BenQ comes out on top because it's so bright and it can produce really bright pictures even with ambient lights on. It is, as I said, a big projector, 8.2 kilograms. It's a big bulky thing, and if you have an opinionated decor minister at home, this is not the projector for you, because it is big. And last but not least, now this is a couple year old, but it's expensive. This one, as I said, new, around $30 to $3,500. You can still buy projectors at this price point that still are 1080p, but compared to 100 to 100, no, 1,000 to $1,200, it's about almost 3 times as much. So it was expensive when I bought it, but then again, build quality and everything. So, and to finish it off, is like there's always a market for the latest and greatest, and everybody wants it immediately, and everybody wants, oh, I can tell everyone I have a 4K projector. But if you have an older, really good 1080p projector where the lamp isn't burnt out or the panels aren't burnt out or anything, it still works, it's still good. Should you upgrade to a budget 4K projector? And for me, after this shootout, I have to say the short answer is no. Not in my case. I am so satisfied with my projector, and you probably are too. And when I waited a long time for the 1080p projectors to come to a price point where I could buy it. I mean, I remember I went to a dealer where I buy a lot of stuff, and they showed me a Marantz 1080p pixel shift projector, and it costed $10,000. I was blown away, but that was a $10,000 projector. If they were to show me a cheaper model or something, an E-Shift, I saw a couple of E-Shift projectors from 720 to 1080p. It's like, the difference isn't that great. Yes, the BenQ was a little bit more detailed because there's 8 million pixels. It was brighter. It had just as good color representation as my projector has, but the DLP was a game changer for me, and not having the lens shift is like they skimp on all the things that makes it easy and comfortable to use, just so you can say that you have a 4K projector. Not saying that it's a bad projector, it's a really good projector, but for me in a dedicated home cinema, it's not the time to change. If you have a living room, if you watch a lot of sports, the BenQ definitely is the better choice. But if you're like me that watches exclusively movies, that's everything I see. Everything I see is everything I watch down in my home cinema. I don't watch television series. I don't watch sports. I don't watch sports at all. I just use it exclusively for movies, and I am fully satisfied with my 1080p projector, and I will wait until I can afford a good native 4K projector, because I have seen those, and wow, the JVCs and the Sonys, they are amazing, but way out of my price point. So I really hope that this helped you in figuring out what to do if you're in a situation where you think you have a good projector, and when you change it to a 4K, I would say try it and think once again, because you do not necessarily get a better experience. You get higher resolution, yes, you get a brighter projector, you get the HDR, you get the bragging rights, but not necessarily a better experience. So I hope that was helpful, and please subscribe and hit the like button or the bell notification, since I'm a bit inconsistent in releasing my videos. And until next time, stay safe, stay home, watch a movie. Thank you.